Hello, I'm Kimberley Dondo, Digital Content Manager, and welcome to In Conversation With, the podcast series that delves into the world of financial services and brings you face to face with some of the most notable figures in the industry. Listen as we discuss topics that are currently facing the industry and hear from visionary CEOs to disruptive innovators as we bring you a diverse array of voices and perspectives. We'll explore the challenges they faced, the lessons they've learned, and the insights they have to share about the ever-evolving landscape of financial services. Hello and welcome to In Conversation With. I'm Kimberley Dondo, and in today's episode, I'm joined by Yasmina Siadatan, Chief Revenue Officer at Dynamic Planner. Thank you for joining me today, Yasmina.
Thank you, Kimberley, and well done for getting through that mouthful.
I always trip up when it comes to people's names, and I've practiced, so I don't know what it is. But for those who may not know you, could you give us a background into yourself and how you got started in the industry?
Yeah, sure. So I have been in the industry for 8 years. And prior to that, so I started off, I cut my teeth in hospitality. So I had restaurants in my 20s and pre-kids, which was really the bit that I absolutely adored and I brought into my role now was everything around customer service and being customer centric. And obviously I was a founder of a business and a business owner, which sets you up in really good stead from a commercial perspective to really understand how to run businesses. So that was a great learning ground for me for a decade or so, and then had children and completely changed my career. Won The Apprentice for my sins, which was an amazing experience, which taught me a lot about PR and media. And I had a really, really amazing time there. And then worked in government, so worked in central government, and that's my first foray into finance, really. So we set up a social bank to deliver loans and mentors for entrepreneurs, and then found myself in Dynamic Planner, and that was 8 years ago. So my role is CRO, which Chief Revenue Officer, which you said, and so I have the privilege of owning marketing, sales, and customer success. So really, kind of you can see that thread throughout the whole of my career that my focus has been on, the customer side of any business. And there's just amazing opportunity in financial services for technology to really make a difference. And so I'm really pleased to be talking to you today, Kimberley, because we're talking about how can we, use technology to make positive impact on the gender disparity that we see across our industry.
Yes. Yeah. And as it is almost International Women's Day, I think this is a perfectly placed conversation for us to have. And with you having had the experience, I can only imagine the variety of skills that you've picked up throughout the years. But that I feel like that's a separate podcast that we could do about that. Yeah. But focusing on tech, how is technology bridging the gender investment gap in the UK?
So first of all, technology has had a really positive impact on the dissemination of information, right? So we all use social media now. We have instantaneous access to all sorts of finance information and data, some of which is bad, which we know, but some of which is really good. And so, for females that want to invest and females that want to be empowered with their finances, there's never been a stronger time for women to be more in control of their finances. However, we operate in retail financial services, of course, and so we have got about 40% of financial advisors in the UK that log into Dynamic Planner every morning to do their financial planning. And within the financial advice space, when I joined the industry 8 years ago, 16% of financial advisors in the UK were women. And this year, 16% of the financial advisors in the UK are women. And so nothing has changed in terms of technology enabling more women to enter into financial services. I think that is a much broader conversation. And how can we help women be attracted into financial services, I think is really interesting. So there's that. And then there's also, so we're a B2B2C organization. So we've got lots of really interesting intel on the difference between male and female investors. We really want to use our technology to help address the quite stark difference between male and female investing in the UK, and use everything we can. So our outputs, our customer outputs, whether they're reports and apps, to be able to help women in particular, or to make sure that we are not being biased towards male investors. But we've actually seen over the years that both men and women have become more risk averse. So when you look at the output of our psychometric risk profiling questionnaire, we ask people a number of questions around their attitude to financial risk. And over the years, since in the last 5 years, over the pandemic and beyond, actually, we've seen a slight reduction in the willingness to take financial risk for both male and female.
Okay.
But females are always markedly lower in terms of their willingness to take financial risk. And we've seen that persistently over the years, and nothing has changed on that. So there are lots of ways which technology should be helping female investors, and technology should be encouraging more women to become financial advisors. We're just not seeing it show up in the stats yet.
Yeah. I do wonder what that barrier to entry is. What is that? Whether it's, not knowing the profession, which is something that a lot of people always talk about. Not many people know about financial advice straight out of university or even sixth form. Whether it's not feeling like you would fit in. I'm not sure what that barrier of entry might be.
So there are so many. I mean, I've given this so much thought, and I believe firstly that there is an inherent bias when it comes to building out teams, and where 84% of financial advisors are men. That means that they are hiring, and they're responsible for the hiring decisions. And there's an inherent bias in hiring people like me, and so there is that kind of sustained systemic issue. I do think that there is a huge problem in this country, as we all know, around trusting financial advisors. I haven't actually looked at the latest kind of Ipsos Mori survey or YouGov poll in terms of the reputation of different industries. But definitely when I've looked in the past over the last few years, it's, we're closely behind some of the most unrespected and untrusted industries in the country when it comes to financial advice. The way that we're represented in the media, the way that we're so with the media and with reporting, for example, but also anytime you watch a movie, the role of the financial advisor is the crook.
Hands down. They're always slimy.
They're always slimy. They're always a man. They're always in their middle aged, and they're always trying to fleece you, So I mean the media in its widest sense, that it kind of transcends storytelling as well. And we know, look at Trump. Look how effective storytelling is. It's running the world right now. Storytelling, right? So nobody could argue with its power. And I think trust, reputation, storytelling, it has a detrimental impact, and particularly with women who have a higher propensity to want to have meaningful careers, something that has purpose, that kind of choosing to go into an untrusting industry is definitely not high up on the agenda. You're totally right. You don't go to university and it's not given to you as a career option. So there are some real problems with this. And my hope and aspiration is that over the years, the Gen Zs are going to come through and be able to completely change our industry for the good, because there are so many benefits to having more female financial advisors. So in the UK, we did some stats recently with some research recently with FTRC, who are an advisor tech consultancy. And together we went out to just a subset of the population and asked them if they receive financial advice. 11% of the 3,000 people that we surveyed responded yes in terms of receiving financial advice, and I'm a woman. And then 18% said yes, and I receive financial advice and I identify as a male. So there are nearly more than half of the people that receive financial advice in the UK, according to this survey, are women. Yet only 16% of financial advisors are women.
Yeah.
And if you couple that with all of the statistics that show that women are becoming much more important when it comes to the finances of the UK. So disposable income is rising, women is rising. I read in the Sunday Times at the weekend quite a passionate article over a couple of pages that was talking about the pay gap amongst the 20-year-olds, the Gen Zs that I've just referenced, where women are now being paid more than men. And we know that there are loads of issues in society with young men now coming out, lots of mental health issues, all this kind of social media. And actually they're being put into less well-paid jobs. And so you're going to have more women that are going to be more wealthy. So this problem of us not being able to serve women in the same way we can serve men is going to keep increasing. Plus, the average age of women keeps rising. Plus, we absolutely see within Dynamic Planner that when a male passes away, and the average age of a man is lower than a woman, so when a male passes away, because of inheritance laws, that money gets passed to the spouse. And then we also see that 80% of women at that point decide to cease relations with the current financial advisor. So this is a business issue, it's a societal issue, and it's an issue that's going to keep rising. So we need to tackle the issues that I've mentioned and that you've talked about around why women aren't attracted to being financial advisors. If I had my way and I had a blank check and I ran the FCA, I would do like a sustained campaign over a number of years to finally deal with the kind of the trust issue. And I actually don't think the FCA does a very good job in this regard. And I understand that they have to, they have to supply the industry with disclaimers for lots of obvious reasons. But I think the disclaimers themselves that the industry has to put on adverts fuel the reputation, so it's just right. There are so many things that need to be fixed. We need to make financial planning cool. So we could, the other thing, you're coming from an apprentice winner here. Let's create like a really cool, like trendy TV show that has like lots of Gen Z financial advisors, and I bet you more people will want to become financial advisors. Look what Suits has done. My kid wants to be. I've got a 14-year-old that wants to be a lawyer because he watches Suits.
Or I can see like some form of reality show, not reality, but where a panel of young advisors maybe have people from the public come in and speak about their issues and how they want to plan their retirement potentially, or, buying that first house, and having them show what it is to give good advice, and
what does it mean to me as a youngster? Yeah. But this is where I do think technology can play a massive difference, right? So We've recently launched Tram, which is our white labeled app, and it puts your financial plan in the palm of your hand, right? So Dynamic Planner, just in a nutshell, if you don't know, Kimberley, we do everything that you need for like one system for your financial planning needs. So client profiling, and then cash flow planning, and then suitability reporting, and making recommendations, right? So if you think about the cash flow planning, quite complex, there's lots of different ways that you can use the Dynamic Planner cash flow to be able to forecast out when you can retire and how much you can afford to spend in retirement and all that good jazz. Now, imagine that, a simplified version of that in the palm of your hand as the consumer. It's really powerful. And so we know that young people have a higher, again, through the research that we did with FTRC, have a higher propensity to want to use apps. And so this is where technology can play a difference. And this is where we think we should be able to attract the more of the non-traditional clients of financial advisors, and that's definitely women. So using technology like apps that are really accessible in theory, and as I said, the stats don't show it at the moment, but in theory, these things should level the playing field for women to be able to need and to be able to access financial advice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can see that because the one thing I am constantly going to have available to me and be engaging with is my phone. So I think apps are definitely engaging. And also, if you're someone who's averse to having face-to-face conversation, maybe that app might be something that you're more comfortable with, depending on the generation, I guess.
100%. And what we have seen when we're talking to our customers is post-COVID, where like this meeting we're having now, Kimberley, I think pre-COVID, I would probably come into your office to record this podcast. We're quite happy doing it on a Teams meeting. It's happening in every industry, and it's definitely happening in financial services. And our advisors are reporting back to us that they're seeing the spouse, as in the female spouse, more than ever before in Teams meetings, because it used to be the gentleman might come to the office, the gentleman would be at home, and now they're seeing the wife as well more, which is good for business and it's good for the wife. So 100% agree with you that we're getting to see more women that way, but also women who have busy lives. Potentially they might have, they might care for the elderly, or they might care for their children. They might be working full time, but it's just more accessible on Teams. And we think, again, in theory, this should all lead to more women being able to access financial advice.
Yeah. And what other ways can technology enhance that advisor-client relationship?
From a woman's perspective?
Yeah,
I definitely think what technology is doing, if we take a step back, what technology is doing in this industry, it is completely sort of evolving the way that we can deliver financial advice. So gone are the days where everything was paper-based and you had to find your local financial advisor through a referral and then they'd have to come to your house for a few hours and they'd charge you a lot of money. Technology is completely revolutionizing the way that we deliver financial advice in this country. And that has to be good on a number of levels in terms of opening up access to financial advice. And we absolutely believe that it should, in theory, help women access financial advice. So technology per se is just changing the delivery of everything we've spoken about. So using apps, using other digital forms of communication like Teams. And we can, so for example, with technology like ours, we will ensure that in our app, we take responsibility to ensure that it's not an app that is focused on men. Okay. Because there can be an inbuilt bias in marketing as well, as we know. So if you were to look at a lot of the kind of the TV campaigns around financial advice, often I'll watch them and I'll think they should have, made that more female friendly. Or it's the same with, if you look on lots of financial advisors' websites, what's the most common colour for a financial planner's website, Kimberley?
I don't know. I thought red, but I don't know if it's blue. It's blue. Okay.
Yeah, you know, you're wearing a pink jumper.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
So, girls were born into pink, boys are born into blue, and the majority of the most common colour is blue. So it's how we use technology, and we use marketing, and we use messaging, and how we do our storytelling to the outside world that's really important here. And that's how technology can have a really amazing impact, because with technology comes more automation. That's what technology is, right? It's automation. Yeah. And it's how the key holders to that automation take on the responsibility of ensuring that we are communicating with all genders, I think is really important. So the technology is really important, but it's the people that build and run the technology that's also really important, which is why we need more women in the industry across the whole spectrum.
Yeah, so that they can have some say in some of those decisions, I guess. But overall, how can firms adjust their digital branding and language to better resonate with women? I know that you talked about, the coloring of the website, or sometimes the language that might be used might feel exclusionary. I mean, when you brought it up, then I was like, yeah, I guess there are times when I see an advertisement or marketing and my brain immediately switches off, like it knows like, oh, this is not for me.
Yeah.
So I won't even retain what the brand was that was being advertised to me or what it was trying to say at all.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. The one that pops to mind for me is the Armed Forces advert.
Yeah.
You know, you just watch it as a woman and you think, well, there is nothing about that. It's black, it's dark, it's got aggressive music, it's got aggressive photographs in it. And so I and I'm a marketeer by trade, so I absolutely understand what you're saying. Like, how can we do it? So it's the responsibility of the people that are writing the content. So, for example, you know, you can do testing, right? You can do A/B testing, and you can test. So lots of financial advisors now are kind of, you see them advertising on, so I'm on Instagram, for example. So there's financial advice adverts on Instagram. So you could run tests and you could see, you know, you could try different messaging, you could try different colors. There is a huge opportunity to support women. There are a small number of financial advice firms in the moment that have kind of started up, but they might start up 20 years ago. They're not necessarily new, that specifically focus on women. So when you land on their website, their leadership team are women. You know, we're still selling financial services, so it's a serious website, right? But it's just at every given moment, these companies are thinking about attracting women. So there are loads of lessons that can be learned from them, but it's just making sure that you've got both genders in all of your imagery. So imagery is really, really important. It's the language that you're using to make sure that it's as attractive to women as it is to men. And a lot of the times it could be do with the complexity of the language that you're using. Because women on every measure have been shown to be less confident around making financial decisions. So don't exclude women by using complicated terms about different asset classes that they are not going to understand, and therefore they'll think, well, this service isn't for me because I don't really even understand, you know, the jargon. The jargon, right? So it's about de-jargonization. It's about making sure that the colours and the imagery are all really have been sense checked for women, but also it's around the kind of scientific side of it. So in companies like Dynamic Planner, because we do a lot of customer outputs, it's making sure that, so for example, we run eye tracking surveys on our software, and what that does is that, so we will ask, and we did it at our last conference actually. So we had a laptop out, and we did it because we knew we were going to get hundreds of advisors there, and we just wanted lots of advisors to put through our survey. But so, for example, we'll create a report, and then we'll use eye tracking technology, which it shows us how people are reading our reports. Or, for example, on our app, we run eye tracking on the app, and it shows us how people are reading the app. Now, we can then look to make sure that we haven't got a better understanding with a male eye than a female eye. You know, so you can use technology and science as well, like I mentioned about kind of A/B testing on advertising or on your websites. And you can really, and you can ask people, right? You can do qualitative research as well as quantitative research. So it's about just being very aware. And this isn't a socially driven initiative, right? This is about making money, right? We're in financial services. We care about profit. So there's a huge opportunity commercially for us to support women. This isn't about supporting women just because we like women.
That is true. And that actually leads to my next point that I was going to make. There was a survey that was done that came out last year that showed that women will be controlling 60% of the UK wealth from this year, from 2025. And that is a large chunk, and that is a lot of profit that is to be made, right? So how can tech personalize their investment experience? Because we talked about, sometimes people are put off because the jargon, or they think maybe it's like a boys club, or they just don't understand what it is to invest, or they're just risk averse and they think I'd rather put my money in a cash ISA and that's safe and I won't lose that money, but they're not making the most of it.
Yeah. And all of the above, right?
Yeah.
And this is where technology can have really positive impact, because at the moment, the majority of communications out to the end investor via financial advisor is still really manual. So a lot of our firms are, creating newsletters and sending out newsletters, and those newsletters are just sent out to all of their clients. For example, they're not tailoring content for specific people to help them move, potentially, like in your example, move up in terms of their ability to take on financial risk. So technology can really help with that, right? So for example, in Dynamic Planner, we've got the ability to carve out target markets, right? So this is aligned to prod regulation. So you can create as many target markets as you want, but let's just take a small example. You could carve out people by say if they're in a couple, or say if they're a single person, right? And so if they're a single person and they're a single female, for example, you could then carve that down into different risk levels, right? So you could have people that are risk averse and they're a single female. You have people that are risky and a single female. And then you can have as many of these target markets as you like. And then you can create content, hyper-personalized content, and we create that hyper-personalized content for you. And we're using AI to deliver quite a lot of that hyper-personalized content that's specifically aligned to that target market. Okay, so that's a perfect, and that content appears in the app of that single female who's risk averse, right? Yeah. And so you could have articles that are specifically designed to help educate that particular cohort of women around the repercussions of taking slightly more financial risk, so coming out of cash and maybe going into a multi-asset 3 or 4, so which will help you beat inflation, but it won't knock the lights out. So just kind of that kind of basic education, but technology has the ability to be able to deliver that kind of hyper-personalized content through a trusted financial advisor, so that the women can start to get more and more confident. So that's kind of one example of how technology can help women, but it's very much around that confidence piece. So if I'm a woman and I'm going to be, and I'm risk averse, and I think it's an old boys club, so everything that you said at the top of that question, I don't understand the jargon, I'm happy in cash, my husband may have passed away, he controlled all the finances, really typical use case, right? Now, if it's a male advisor that comes to my house, he comes and sits on my sofa, he talks to me in complicated language, he gets out pieces of paper that he wants me to sign, versus potentially a female advisor, doesn't have to be, but let's say it's a female advisor, we have a chat on Teams, she sends me information, she tells me to download an app, and she sends me information via this app. It's really professional, it's really digitized, it's really slick. I've got information that I need, and I can speak to this woman or man at any time I like. Which one's going to give me more confidence to invest? The one where I feel more empowered and I understand more, that's tech enabled, or the one where it's very old school, it's quite old boys club. Buying it doesn't feel like a normal service that I would buy. It feels quite like an archaic, old school service that I buy. Which one's going to give me more confidence, right? So it's about how we can use technology across the piece to engender trust. And if we can engender trust, then I think we'll start to see the gap between women wanting to take financial risk versus men. We might see that gap start to close.
And you spoke earlier about the psychometric risk profiling data that you had. And I wondered how it can be used to tailor digital investment solutions for women.
Yeah, so often our findings show that women can be more risk averse and less confident, and we see that actually that is on every single measure on our risk profiling question, that pattern prevails. Okay, but we also see in our research that when a woman accesses financial advice, she then becomes her confidence grows relatively more than a man's. So our research shows that when a woman accesses financial advice, she becomes relatively more confident than when a man accesses financial advice. Okay. So it's really important for us to attract women into needing and wanting a financial advice and being able to access it and being able to afford it and being able to be served by it. So I often, think, do you need to have female NPSs? Or, of course not. It's my opinion. No, a financial product is a financial product, whatever you are, whoever you are, that the financial product is for you and your particular characteristics, which I don't think are gender specific when it comes to investing characteristics. However, if we can attract, it comes back to the original question, if we can lower the cost to delivering financial advice, which is exactly what Dynamic Planner does. So technology lowers the cost of delivering financial advice, which then opens up financial advice. So there are 3.2 million people today that access financial advice in the UK. There are, depending on which survey you read, but the FCA's last survey is about 10 million people that need and want financial advice, but the cost to serve them is too high. How can we as an industry lower that cost to serve to open up access to financial advice? Dynamic Planner can help with that, and we are helping. That's the whole point of TRAM. So TRAM is charged at £2.50 per customer per month, and you can turn a profit on that, right? So how can we use technology to open up access to financial advice so that more women can approach a financial advisor with confidence, with trust, and be able to get that proportionately higher benefit from reaching a financial advisor than a man could? That's how we think technology can help, as opposed to having, a pink stiletto MPS or whatever it is, which is, for me, is complete nonsense. Maybe someone should try it and see if it works, but I think it would flop, which is probably why no one's done it, because I think most people would. I mean, what do you think?
I think it would feel what's the word where they're pandering, but in a really condescending.
Agreed. Make it worse.
Yeah. It's just like, it's the same. It's probably the same product that everyone else had, that they've been selling before, but they just try to make it more feminine, as if that will change my mind. Whereas I don't think that's necessary.
No, I completely agree. And I think that, it is the responsibility of the asset managers to make their products really clearly labeled, really clearly understood, the price point really clear. You might argue that the characteristics, because when we actually look at the results of our sustainability questionnaire, for example, women care more greatly about ESG characteristics than men do. So, you could argue that actually, portfolios that have a higher ESG status are maybe more attractive to women. But again, that's about the characteristics of the investor above and beyond gender. So, but keeping solutions clear and simple is key. But I think that the asset management industry do quite a good job of trying to do that. Clearly it's a complex product. But I know plenty of asset managers that we work with that actually do a really good job at keeping the language quite clear and simple on a lot of their products. It's the charging where it can get a little bit more complicated.
Yeah. And finally, Yasmina, I wanted to ask you, what are your hopes for the future when it comes to technology and its use to attract either more women into financial advice or women to seek financial advice?
Yeah. So I see a world where, right from when you're auto-enrolled, you also get a subscription to an app, and it's £5 a month, for argument's sake. And part of that app, it's like having your financial best friend in your pocket, right? So throughout your accumulative years, it's the replacement to the shoebox. So, all of your important stuff goes into this app. It comes through from open banking. It comes through from open data. Everything's all linked up. You kind of pop in there and you see how you're doing against your savings. You're checking about your debt. You're checking about your mortgage. It gives you like an overall kind of value of your wealth, and it's all done automated. And then as you grow in complexity, you might invest in having children. You might invest in other assets or liabilities. And it all comes through into this world. And then when you need and want more complex advice, of which there will always have to be trained humans to be able to deliver that.
Yes.
And then you press a button and you've got some choices, and that's where I believe the future is going to be, and we are not that far away from it. And that's our vision, right? That's really what we're trying to do. So, and the regulator, as we know, is also really trying to solve this problem. So I think with a change in regulation, an increase in demand, which we know is there. So to get real societal change, you need multifaceted inputs into that. You need proper consumer demand, and there is that exists. You need the politicians and the regulators to be listening and to want to change laws. That's happening. And then you also need technology in the modern world. You need technology to be able to actually implement it and deliver it. And you have that complex interplay with this particular issue happening now. And so we see it as our responsibility to deliver that change. Because people are getting older, and it's becoming more and more expensive to live in retirement, and so we have to make this change, and we have to make things work.
Yeah, no, I like that, because the amount of subscriptions, as in streaming subscriptions, I have, throwing in a financial advice one would probably help me to determine if I need those subscriptions. Although I think I'm doing a pretty good job of it, but I think in the long term, I think it's something that will be readily embraced, just because there are already so many examples of that. And this will actually be of benefit, as opposed to just a fun thing that you just do on a Friday night because you have no other plans. But this is going to help you with your future. So it's almost an investment as well. So yeah.
It is an investment. Yeah. I mean, I'm 43 now, and the amount of friends that I've got that kind of, when we really get down to it, and they talk about their financial situation and how deeply anxious they are about retirement, and they're in their mid-40s, so they don't really have to think about it yet, but that needs fixing. There's a problem and it needs fixing, and there are lots of people that are trying to fix it. But I think once the regulator makes their decision on the advice guidance boundary review, hopefully, and if tech companies like ours can deliver the right technology, and we've got the brands in the UK that are willing to take on this new challenge, then we should see some real change.
Yeah. Wow. I look forward to that future. Like I said, I will definitely subscribe myself.
Thank you, Kimberley. I'd welcome you as my customer.
Well, thank you for speaking with me today, Yasmina. This was a really great conversation.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. Here's to a positive future.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to In Conversation With. We do hope that you enjoyed it. Please do keep up to date with all our new releases via Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcasts from. You can also keep up to date with all our new content published on the Money Marketing website, as well as our print edition Money Marketing magazine. So make sure to subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. See you next time.